She's worried that it's all an illusion and it's just gonna go away. I'm worried you're gonna go away then. Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie Megan and this is Weirdo Book Club. Today we will be revisiting a world we've already been to once before. I know. The world is Neverland through the eyes of Nikki St. Crowe. Stop yelling, I know. We will be discussing book 2 in the Vicious Lost Boys series, The Dark One. But before we do that, let me show you my underwear. I'm sorry. That was weird, huh? Let me explain. Today, in my first ever sponsored video, I'm working with Parade, which is a size-inclusive, women-owned, sustainable brand of underwear, bras, bralettes, lingerie, and even pajamas. They reached out to me and asked if I wanted to work with them on a video, and I said, yeah, absolutely I do. They offer a wide variety of really cute stuff. I picked the Betsy Johnson collab, the vintage rosette triangle bralette, and the free comfort boxer. I just felt like I needed a boxer in my life. You know what I mean? I sized up so I'm extra cozy. The fabric is really breezy and comfortable, and the bra is very supportive but very comfortable at the same time. And it has this little rose in the center, and I don't know why, I just think that's so precious. I also spent my own money on this before and bought this super cute pajama set. It's my favorite. I wear it all the time. I love that the buttons are hidden. How chic is that? It's perfect for lounging around the house, for sleeping. It's super breathable. It's even good for sitting around and contemplating all your life decisions, like the book we're about to read. Use my code WEIRDO40 at checkout to get 40% off of your order with an exclusion of sale items. Please note my special discount code will not work towards the Betsy Johnson collab items. I know, bummer. But the free comfort boxer and the triangle bralette are available in other colors that the discount code will work for. And by doing so, you support me, you support the channel, you support a woman-owned, ethically sourced, size-inclusive brand, and get yourself something cute. You deserve it. Thank you again to Parade for sponsoring this. I'm very excited to have my first sponsored post. She's all grown up. Now let's get back to The Dark One. Before we get into it, I'm going to show you my nails, okay? Let's do the disclaimers. Number 1 is always the same. This review will contain spoilers, opinions, and general shit talking. If none of that interests you, you don't have to stay. This review just isn't for you, and that's okay. It's also not for the author, and I just have to say that up front. So The Dark One is book 2 of 4 in the Vicious Lost Boys series by Nikki St. Crowe. It's 226 pages, originally published in April 2022, and is a dark, wide shoes romance reimagining of Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. Yeah, I've already read and reviewed book 1 on my channel, The Never King, and if you haven't watched that review, I highly encourage it because it'll give you some context for this, and it's just fun. Obviously, here we are again. Thanks to a contributor named Lee, you guys, you little angels out there, get to enjoy a rant for every book in this series. That's 4 rant reviews in Peter Pan territory total. I hope y'all are ready for that. Big shout out to Lee. So this book features multiple POVs. I'm not really sure how many, and I refuse to go back and count them, but there's a lot of them. Mainly, Winnie, our female main character, freshly 18, deeply traumatized from a life on the run from Peter Pan, obviously, his most trusted friend, Vane, aka the Dark One, and then the 2 exiled, banished, wingless fae princes, Cass and Bash. If you asked me to differentiate them for you, one of them has longer hair than the other. Anywhoosers, let's read the synopsis. I spent most of my life feeling dead inside until I met Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. It wasn't until Pan and Neverland that I finally felt alive. But things are not full of magic and sunlight on the island. There's something darker and more sinister haunting the forest. And worse, the Fae Queen and Captain Hook are ready for a fight for control of Neverland, and they will stop at nothing to get what they want. Including using the one thing Peter never thought he wanted or needed, me. I have to get through the synopsis. I'm a descendant of the Darling family, and now I belong to him and the Lost Boys. War is brewing. Can the Never King get his shadow back and assume his rightful throne? And if he does, where will I fit? Or will all of Neverland be in jeopardy right along with my dark, twisted heart? So I copy and pasted that into my outline, and I hadn't read it until exactly this moment, and I think that shows because there was also a note from, I assume, the author. It says, note, The Dark One is book 2 in the Vicious Lost Boys series. It's a dark reimagining of Peter and Wendy. If you like your enemies to lovers romance with hot, ruthless, morally gray love interests, you'll enjoy The Dark One and the Lost Boys. You can expect hate kissing, fighting, bickering, and toucher and all unalive you vibes. So trigger warnings. There are none in the book, but it does say go to her website for them, and they cover the entire series, so let's read them together. Mental illness, smoking, graphic roughs in public, groups, dubcon, graphic violence, graphic language, captive captivity, degradation, submission, bondage, ropes, spanking, blood play, choking, CNC, and talk of SA. So that's that on that. Now, without further ado, because I know that you've been dying to know what Winnie Hoare's been up to. I know, me too, sames. Let's get started. So I did a rant review on the first book, as I said, and if you want to stop this now and go watch that so you can get some context, I encourage you to do that. But if you don't want to, here's a small summary. Every year on the 18th birthday, the darling women get kidnapped and they return to the world broken. Who kidnaps them? Peter Pan. So Winnie is our main character. She's 18 and she has been on the run with her mother, Mary, who was also kidnapped by the boys when she was 18. As predicted, she is kidnapped on her 18th birthday. She goes to Neverland, but there's something different about this girl. She makes everything feel warmer. I'm not sure how, because her only personality trait is being really promiscuous. But hey, what do I know? Winnie, Pan, Vane, Cass, and Bash come together and figure out where his shadow is at the end of book 1. They go and retrieve it, and when they get back to Neverland, they open the box and 2 shadows pop out. So that was the cliffhanger we were left with, and we start this book on the tail end of that. And we also get a nice little excerpt from the original Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. There's a greedy look in his eyes now, which ought to have alarmed her, but did not. Sure. Chapter 1, Peter Pan. We pick back up with them returning to the tree. They're getting shots ready. They're about to open up this box. They're about to get this shadow. Everything's about to be fine. And then, 2 shadows, as I said. They exit the box and bolt in different directions. Pan and Vane go after one. Fade, Princess, Cass, and Bash go after the other. Winnie, she's just chilling. I follow the shadow, my shadow, because I would know it anywhere, out to the open balcony doors. It disappears over the stone railing. Oh no, what are we gonna do? Chase sequence. Naturally. Fear not, though. Pan and Vane are hot on the tail of this shadow. If I miss it, you get ready to catch it, I tell Vane. I know how to handle a shadow, he says. Your black eye says otherwise. He scowls at me. We draw closer. Closer still. Oh my god, are they about to kiss right now? Like, that would honestly turn things up a notch for sure. We haven't had any Lost Boy on Lost Boy action yet, unless you want to count the twins double teaming Winnie Hoare in the kitchen over cloudberry pancakes, which, I don't. So long story short, they run through the forest, over the hills, through the woods, to grandmother's house they go, and they end up losing the shadow. How? Well, it's super fast, and it hops right over into Captain James Hook's territory. This is fun for me because I love Captain Hook. Like, whether it's Dustin Hoffman's portrayal in Hook with Robin Williams or this man. I'm ready for Captain Hook. I'm ready. I'm so excited that he makes an appearance. We did not get any Hook in book 1, so he better be cool. Chapter 2, Cass, one of the twins. Don't know which one. So the wingless Fey Prince and his wingless Fey twin brother, Bash, are tasked with hunting down the Dark Shadow, which didn't go very far. It just slithered up into the Nevertree, which is fun. The Nevertree is where they have their loft. It's where they all live. So really not that far. We're like just right up there. So they start talking in secret in their little Fey Tinkerbell language. And they start kind of going over like, what is Pan going to want to do if we catch this Death Shadow? He's not going to want it. If Bash and I were to claim the Dark Shadow, our little sister Tilly would hate us for having more power. But she made her decisions. And to see her face as one of us walks in as Neverland's Dark One, I smile to myself as my twin voice echoes in my head. Let's nab it first, then we can plot our revenge. You may recall that Tilly is their sister, the Fey Queen. She's also the one that has been tormenting darlings for so long, trying to help Peter Pan find a shadow, but really she's just messing with their minds, like lobotomizing them with her mind, and not helping at all. She just wants to hurt them. None of this is important really, but I'm trying to be thorough. I think Tinkerbell was her mother, like the Fey twins and Tilly's mother. Pan unalived Tink, remember, because he was in love with Wendy, who is the great-grandmother of the current darling child that he is having a sexual relationship with. Tink was jealous of him loving Wendy, so she like sabotaged something. I don't know. I forget. But Peter Pan unalived her in retaliation, even though she was his best friend. Rip to Tink. So now we have the twins contemplating what life would look like if one of them claimed the shadow. But boys, we don't count our chickens before they hatch around here. No. We gotta get the shadow first. And who is gonna do that? How are we gonna decide? Paper, rock, scissors, of course. Duh. If me and Cherry, you remember Cherry, if me and Cherry were to play this game, though, it would be more like
rock, paper, scissors, who has to tell the whore to leave.
But more on that later. Bash loses, so he has to go up and get it. And should be simple enough, right? I mean, it's an elusive shadow of death. Cakewalk. I'm not worried. The shadow lunges. There's a deep guttural roar from the thing, and the pixie bugs fly out of the tree in a bright neon swarm. The parakeets go eerily silent as Bash makes a wet, choked sound. Then I smell the blood. Nar. So the shadow slashed Bash's throat. Wow, say that 5 times fast. Cass is distraught and he calls for Winnie. I'm not real sure what Winnie Horror's gonna do, but whatever. There's blood everywhere, and Cass tells him, Faye never died. It's very much giving
Only poses die, you fucking idiot!
energy, except SLC Punk is a really great 90s dramedy starring Matthew Lillard, and this is the Never King. Chapter 3 is Winnie. And I have missed this bitch. Oh my God. I bet she's better than ever. Get a towel. Get a towel. I don't know where anything is in this house. I go to the kitchen because that seems like a likely place to start opening cupboards. My heart is pounding against my eardrums and my hands are shaking. There was so much blood. Bash, oh God, I feel sick. How much blood can a Fae Prince lose? I don't know enough about Neverland and the magic here. I don't know anything about anything. Heart's pounding against your eardrum, huh? I understand what you're trying to say, but now I'm just concerned about your anatomy. And she's still stupid. I can't say that I'm surprised. This is, after all, the 18-year-old traumatized, malnourished, neglected, kidnapped girl who, in book 1, got horny because the boys, while gutting a fish, mentioned the phrase anal fin. She finds the towels, which is lucky because if I needed towels, I would go to a bathroom first. But again, this isn't my book, so she runs in, slips on the blood, and falls and comes crashing to the ground, which is a Bella move if I ever saw one. She asks how much blood Fae Prince can lose before they... Cass is like, even for Fae, like, too much blood loss is too much. So it seems like Bash is in a little bit of trouble, right? All hope seems lost, but... Winnie has an idea. She recounts to us in book 1 how she learned that if she says, I don't believe in fairies, Fae die. So she's going to flip it and reverse it and do the opposite. So she's like, I believe in fairies. I believe in fairies. I believe in fairies, which is canon in Peter Pan lore, but this is absolutely ridiculous. I believe in fairies. I believe in fairies. And then all of a sudden, Bash is simply no longer dying of blood loss. He's 100% fine. And he tells us that dying would be an awfully big adventure. And for that, sir, you earned 1 knuckle sandwich. Hold still. They collect themselves just as the storm returns, aka Pan and Vane. Pan starts smashing liquor bottles left and right, and Vane looks at one of the twins and is like, get her out of here. Because she doesn't need to see him throwing a massive man-baby fit. But I mean, he is a forever boy, right? So... that's another thing we never touched on in the first review. Winnie mentioned that they had the look of a boy but the presence of a man. So are these all just like children banging it out? I can't make it make sense in my head, so I've sidestepped this topic until now, because if I think of these beings with tattoo and liquor and just all the sex and their I can't. Let's just keep going. Cass takes Winnie and into a room, and draws her a bath and takes her dress off, and they start discussing the night's events. Winnie decides to ask about their mother, Tink, which is just a bad move. Don't do it. Our mother was a She was jealous of any woman who got near Pan. She wanted to be the queen to Pan's Never King. When Pan turned her down, she went to the next best and married our father, the Fae King. She was just a common house Fae who was greedy for so much more. She had one thing going for her. She was gorgeous, and so ice cold it burned. My father wanted to soften her. He never got his wish. I'm finding it hard to care, but even though she's completely nude, she's still covered in a lot of Bash's blood, which is not fun. He tells her how clever it was when she came up with that idea. And I can't say the same. I'm going to say this one more time though, okay? She is completely nude. He is shirtless, wearing black pants. I made a choice to come back here with you, with all of you. I let my finger stay on the tattoo line as it passes his navel and disappears beneath the waistband of my pants. Once again, she's completely nude. He is shirtless with pants. She's touching his chest, running her fingers over his tattoos, right? Right? I let my fingers stay on the tattoo line as it passes his navel and disappears beneath the waistband of my pants. Is he wearing her pants? Or is this simply a mistake? This whole thing's a mistake. They're both horned up, but he leaves and she's like, are you leaving me? If I stay here much longer, darling, I'll be bending you over the edge of that tub and until your ribs are bruised. I straightened my shoulders. Maybe I want that. I don't. Damn! Whoa! Rejection! Ouch! When I finally get in that tight, it will not be out of desperation. Clean up and get some rest. It's beautiful. He stops outside of the bathroom and looks at me over his shoulder. His dark hair is still wound up in a bun, but several strands have fallen out and hang stringy and stringy and bloody along his face. He's a sight, a bold, bloody, gorgeous sight. Be a good girl, he tells me, and do as I say. Then he's gone. Bummer. Chapter 4, Bash. Oh, hooray. Bash stayed behind to watch Peter Pan self-destruct all over their liquor collection. He's not impressed, especially because he, Bash, actually almost just died. Well, did he? I don't know. It seemed serious, and then Winnie clapped a couple times, and he was fine. Probably foreshadowing that there's something different about Winnie, but we already knew that. Herb is open for business. I get it. He's lost his shadow again, but does he have to waste precious amounts of rum while expressing his vexation? I think not. Why is the rum gone? Because Pan is throwing a hissy fit. Duh. Also, vexation. That's a $2 word. Well done. Everything hurts. My head is pounding. Is it safe for the darling to come back out? I could use that sweep wrapped around my... Ah! Pan starts to chill the heck out. But what's this? The front door bangs open down below and a cacophony of sound rises up to the loft. Some of the Lost Boys have returned from town with Lost in tow. Not the Lost Pussy. God, I was sure that we'd seen the first and last of that line in book 1, but lightning has struck more than once, and we are so blessed. Don't believe me? Well, get those apologies ready, my friend. Not that long ago, before Darling, we'd be down there taking what we want. Now I'm not so sure any wet will do. Whatever we might have done is decided for us because the girls come up of their own accord. They've been here before. They've bobbed on our... had a mouthful of our... My God. Hey, girl at the front calls as she saunters over to the king. He watches her come over with hooded eyes. I can't remember the girl's name, but she's the leader of this cohort. Libby or some shit like that. Blessings on blessings on blessings, I tell ya. Misogyny ensues as the Lost Pussy settles in. One of them sits on Pan's lap, and the other ones kind of scatter around to the rest of them, except for Vane, because Vane is not, he's above this. He's not doing this. And he's busy reading. Well, reading and judgmentally eyeing the rest of them. Vane then asks Pan, what exactly are you planning to do if Winnie comes out here? Pan sits forward and looks at the dark one around the heaving swell of Libby's I'm a king, he says, a little drunk. I do what I want. I do what I want. I don't do exclusive. Fuck's she gonna do about it? And then this line occurs. Thank you, Vane. She'll checkmate your ass before you even know you're sitting on the board. See, now I am confusion about this also because explain yourself. In what world does Winnie Whore have the power to do anything to Peter Pan, the Never King? Like, I know he doesn't have a shadow, blah, blah, blah. But what have we seen in the 2 books in this series that we've now been through that tells us that Winnie has the power to checkmate anyone, let alone Peter Pan? Like, is she gonna kill him? Is she gonna, like, do it with the other Lost Boys and just stick it to him? Is she gonna leave Neverland and never come back? Like, what is her checkmate? I just don't know. What? Please tell me. The twins have a little fey convo about how neither of them is doing anything and how Winnie would be pissed and how she has Cass wrapped around his finger. What? Her finger? But they also notice that Pan hasn't touched any of these girls either because he too is wrapped around the darling's finger. Chapter 5, Winnie again. Finishing up her bath, she heads to the window and just kind of falls asleep to the lovely sounds of the ocean lapping against the shore, the moonlight breaking through the trees. She wakes up later because she hears some giggling. Uh-oh. She says a dark thing curls in her belly, and I don't know what that means, but she isn't feeling super great. I got diarrhea. She creeps to the door to listen a little harder. Did they really banish me to my room and then decide to throw a party in my absence? The rage that burbles up my throat is raw and sharp. Burbles. Okay. Hold, please. Burbles, according to my online dictionary, is either a car noise made when something's wrong with the transmission, shout out to my sister right now, hope you get that fixed, or a continuous murmuring noise. And just to be thorough, the word murmur means to speak in a low, soft, indistinct voice, not unlike what I'm doing right now. The word burbles here, enveloped by rage, raw, and sharp, is silly goosery. What are we actually doing? Anyway, Winnie's pissed and she storms out, enters the room, takes stock of everything going on, and makes eyes at Peter Pan. They have like a stare down. He doesn't have his shadow yet. He's not all powerful, which means if I want to make a stand, now is the time. And there's a sudden urgent need to get back at him for making my stomach knot up like it is, for making me feel like territorial bitch, even though I have no claim to any of them. Checkmate time? Oh my. They're staring right here. They're right here. And then Winnie just bolts out the door. She like low-key parkours her way down the steps and into the bonfire beach party so that she can pick out a random and just start making out with him. Moment of silence for our fallen redheaded wonder from book 1. All right. Pan's after her, though, and he, like, yeets the girl in his lap and tears off after her. Pan snatches her off of this random lost boy, and they're like, what are you doing? She's like, no, what are you doing? It's very intense. She's like, if you get to touch, I get to touch too. The twins laugh from the balcony, just enjoying the show, and Pan is like, enough, and tosses her over his shoulder. Deja vu. I'm not your property, I yell, and pummel his backside. Of course, it's no use. Peter Pan is nothing but lean muscle and rock-solid hubris. Hubris. Now listen here, okay? I'm not above admitting I don't know what that word means. I've never used hubris in a sentence. I can kind of get it when other people use it, but if you asked me to define it before this moment, I couldn't. But it means an unearned, exaggerated sense of confidence. So he's lean muscle and rock solid confidence, and it's no use if you hit him because he's solid confidence. I'm confident too. I'm confident that that is not how you use that word. No. Just no. He carries her back into the Nevertree, passing the twins on the way in, and she's like, help me. And they're like, you got yourself into this, darling. Pan yells at the lost pussy to get lost. Get it? He tosses Winnie down in a chair, plops down in one himself, and then gives us an entire paragraph detailing how he lights up a cigarette. I'm a straightforward man. I don't like to play games. If you have something to say to me, darling, say it to my face. 1. That's not true. You were just testing limits and playing games while letting a girl sit on your lap and having a stare down with Winnie in the living room. 2, come on now, Peter. Now, how the heck can she checkmate your ass if you refuse to play games? She's like, I don't want to share. And he's like, we're 4 hungry men. You think you're capable of keeping up with our appetites? I don't even have to think about it. Yes. His gaze turns dark. What? His gaze turns dark and dangerous, and I think maybe he knew where this was leading all along. He drew the map and I followed the X right to this trap. Is it a map or is it a game? You're losing me. Then show me. How? You want all 4 of us? Then get on your knees and put that mouth to work. Show me you can be our little darling whore. The buzzing intensifies and my swells to a needy bud. I just want to take a second to remember that this man was in love with her great-great-grandmother. We're getting some spice though, so aren't we blessed? I moved his thing to the floor in front of him, but he shakes his head just once. Twins first. I want to watch you choke on them. I almost choked on that sentence. The hard edge of his words is meant to frighten me off, but if that's his plan, he doesn't know me very well. Because my stomach is full of wings and my pus is throbbing. Oh my God. I know what that's meant to illustrate, right? Like we all know butterflies. But I just thought of chicken. Like she just had a big dinner at Buffalo Wild Wings and she is ready to go. Anyway, Cass and Bash are already there. Bash has his fully out, ready. Preek already glistens on the head of his, and he rubs it off with the pad of his thumb and then wipes it across my bottom lip. Why is this a thing? Why is this a thing that I've seen more than once now? Is this a thing? I know that everything is a thing, technically, if you have the imagination and the gumption. You know, I understand. But I saw cum chapstick for the first time in the Pucking Rung number. And here it is again.
Shrimp.
At least Winnie's awake for this and aware that it's happening, you know, so I guess, good? All systems go. We have liftoff. And Pan tells them not to go easy on her. She wanted this. Make her take it. Loves it. Bash heard this and slaps her in the face with his... And listen again. In the moment, there's a lot of things that happen during an encounter that are embarrassing if you like think about them in the light of day or like when you're having dinner with your mom. And so I understand that context and circumstances like paint these experiences. But in order for this to have landed for me personally, it would have had to been better writing all along. And we have not had that. Everything is goofy and stupid, and there's a slap. Like, stop. Stop, please. He arrives at his destination, all up in her mouth. Then it's Cass's turn. Yay! But first, Bash ties her up. Isn't that such a sweet thing to do for your brother? She's tied up. Cass approaches, and he asks her if she likes to be used. And Cass, I don't think we needed to ask her that, did we? Did we? Let's use our noodle, okay? Not that one. Not that one, okay? At ease, soldier. Her nickname is Winnie Whore. The answer is yes. But this is a vulnerable moment for our whore queen, okay? She says yes, she likes to be used because 1, it makes her feel good, and 2, It makes her feel less alone, which is understandable. Sex can be very empowering, as can exploring kink in safe ways with people that you trust. However, she's a kid. She's an unwell kid. And these are the Lost Boys and Peter Pan. This is something I find myself remembering at the worst times. This is Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. More horrible, spicy writing. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna do it. And the chapter ends, but only brings us to chapter 6, which is still Winnie POV. Why exactly did we need a new chapter to continue a sex scene? Like, if we needed a new chapter so badly, why didn't it stop after Bash finished and before he tied her up and got her ready for his twin brother? Cass arrives at his destination also. So many trips, so many adventures. Then she asks to be untied so she can take care of the king, which again is Peter Pan, for those just tuning in. Blah. And he's just chilling, been watching the whole thing, having a great time. He's an unholy sight, and I will never stop sinning for him. I move to stand to go to him, but he tisks at me and shakes his head. Did I tell you to get off your knees? You'll crawl to me. And she does. She starts to unbutton his little britches, strokes him, tells him she doesn't want to share. Says it again. We know. And she's teasing him, waiting for him to agree to her terms, which is she's not going to share. She's like bringing her mouth really close but not doing anything. And he's just about to agree when all of a sudden he suplexes her. He agrees and tells her the only whore he will let near him is her. How sweet. He asks if that will suffice and she says yes. And he says, yes, what? And she says, yes, Pan. And then he spits on her it says try again. She gets it right the second time with yes, king. I thought he didn't like to play games. Then he eats her like a spaghetti dinner. All the others watching as he does. Loves it. He stands ready to enter her and tells her that if she wants, there are 4 to choose from. Them and no one else. She agrees and he plunges into her. Woo! He arrives inside of her. Yeah. Then she's like, there's one more I need to satisfy. And she starts to approach Vane. And then we have a line that is fully getting me ready to eat lunch. I get up, cross the room. Peter Pan's dripping down my thighs. What a sentence. If anyone ever asks you about this series, just show them that. Show them that one and we're the Lost Boys and there's plenty of lost to be found. They won't have any more questions. Or they'll be really intrigued. Either way, your job is done. She approaches the Dark One, gassing herself up the whole time. You can do this. You can endure. You can endure. His violet eye turns black. Remember, he has heterochromia, because of course he does. And his hair also turns white. So he's just out here looking goofy. Like, this made me giggle so hard. Like, I was giggling writing this outline because that just looks weird. I know it's supposed to be kind of scary and like, oh my God, rah. But it's not because he's goofy. But it does get a little scary when he grabs her by the throat and just throws her into the wall. Chapter 7, Winnie again. So chapter 5, 6, and 7 were all her in this one sexual encounter. I do not understand this. Is there like a quota that has to be met? So remember, he yeeted her into a wall and he is now strangling her up against said wall, the dark shadow of death, clearly in the driver's seat here. The other 3 are like, dude, get off of her, man. What? She's gasping for air. It's not a good time. She exposits that she was not prepared for this. She didn't know what she was getting herself into. She had no idea. False. In book 1, after old girl Cherry spent some time with Vane, quality time with Vane, she shows back up in the loft, covered in cuts and bruises. Winnie really is stupid, though, so let's just keep going. Oh, shit, I completely forgot what I had next in my notes. Maybe I am a stupid girl who knows nothing at all. So finally, we agree. The twins grab Vane, and he drops Winnie, but punches Bash in the throat. Man, Bash's throat is really taking a beating tonight. Not like Winnie's, though. And Vane turns to Cash and gives him a boot to the chest. Toby Keith style. May he rest. Pan's like, you need to control that shadow or I'm going to send you back to your island. So Vane launches at Pan and grabs him and they scrabble. He's got Pan in his clutches and the dark ink or what, I don't know what it is exactly, starts to spread from Vane to Pan. I don't know. They can't get him off of him and he's literally about to unalive Peter Pan. And Winnie, again, has the solution. Do I need to tell you what it is or can you guess? Vane! I yell. He turns just slightly, the line of his jaw meeting the rise of his shoulders. You can have me any way you need me. So that's her big idea. Magical cure. We see it all the time. I wish my magical could cure my depression. Vane drops Pan and starts heading towards Winnie. She slowly backs away and she steps on a piece of broken glass in the process, so she's leaving little bloody footprints. And the bloody footprints, is actually what kind of snaps Vane back to reality. Her being hurt or whatever. His eyes chill, so does his hair. Whew. He says, "Don't ever do that again," and then leaves. Chapter 8, we have Peter again. The 3 remaining men get to work on fixing up Winnie's foot. Cass leaves and returns with a first aid kit, a needle, and a thread. And I want you to think about that, okay? I want you to think about what that means, what they're implying with this, action. They immediately sprung into action. Plus, I have heard nothing about Darlington General Hospital, so I don't think that there's proper medical care on this island. So with all of that in mind, just stay with me. Pan says that he used to be afraid of losing his shadow and losing the island, but now his fears are shape-shifting in front of his eyes with Winnie bleeding onto his pants. My dude, just grab some OxyClean, dump that shit on there. That'll knock that stain right out. Oh, he's afraid of losing. I gotcha. I don't want her to disappear like my shadow and slip off into the night and leave me alone. A hollowed man left with nothing but writhing darkness and a festering wound where my heart once was. I'm cold inside. I want to be warm. We know. We've done this. We're a house of cold, hard edges. She's already made it feel warmer somehow. That was in the first book. Please, Peter, stop it. He pours some bourbon onto a rag and holds it onto her foot, which is a 3-inch gash. Listen, I understand that in a pinch, bourbon will work to sanitize small cuts and scrapes and stuff, but I don't think that this is a good idea. Also, Cass literally has a first aid kit. What are we doing? Speaking of dumb shit, in Darling's world, no. In Darling's world, they have anesthesia for this sort of thing. Here, we have fae princes. So basically, they have the power to illusion her and project images into her brain and kind of transport her somewhere else. Not really sure why they didn't try to do that when Tilly had her hands on her in the first book, but I'm not the author. And I feel like this would be a better job for the bourbon. Just get her all liquored up and then sew her foot back together. But I'm not a doctor. And neither are they. Lie back, darling, Cass orders. She gives us all a skeptical look. You'll let us f you into oblivion, but not care for you when you're injured, I say. I don't like that she looks like a wounded forest creature trembling and clammy. Please, darling, I add, let me take care of you. Hate that. Winnie wells up and Pan's like, it seems like she's never had anyone care for her before. Yeah, I don't think anybody has. They illusion her or whatever, and she's gone for a good while. The suturing begins. And listen, again, I want you to think, what can we surmise from this? They have a needle and thread on hand. They jumped into action as soon as they knew she was hurt and took it upon themselves to fix it. So I want you to take those context clues and hold them in your cute little hand, okay? While I read this next part to you. I have the wound half closed and growing smaller by the second. When you're constantly under threat from pirates, you quickly become an expert at tending to wounds. Ah, yes, that is what we could have surmised. And we understood it before it was spoon-fed to us, right? Right? I thought so, yeah. He finishes the stitches and tells the boys watch over her for a little while because he's got to get out of there because her being as hot as she is and being incapacitated, he might use her a little too hard. You know what I mean? He might cross some lines, which good. Get the fuck out. So cute, though. And Bash gives us some attitude. She's as much as ours as she is yours. You don't have to tell us to watch over her. Fae princes are pushing more than they used to, but one problem at a time. I give them a quick nod before I go off in search of the Dark One. He finds Vane walking along the lagoon's edge. They mention that the spirits that are in the lagoon are trying to grab at him because magic likes magic, which I fear will be a thing. It just feels like a catchphrase or a little tagline that we're going to see again. It doesn't feel important. I didn't say that. It just feels like something that's meant to try to be important. They start discussing what the solution's going to be since the Death Shadow is clearly making his life miserable. Vane doesn't know what the solution is, but he knows he can feel that his shadow wants to return to the island because even though he claimed it, the shadow doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the island. Hi there from the void. I forgot to give you the opportunity to guess what Vane's island is named. I want you to think about it. I'm going to give you a couple seconds. Brainstorm. Let me know in the comments what you think Vane's island is called, and then brace yourself for the reveal. Darkland. The Dark One's island is called Darkland. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. But Vane doesn't want to go back, which is a relief to Peter because Vane is his BFF. Pan suggests giving his shadow to somebody else that's from the island and still on the island. And Vane's like, I'm not taking the death shadow of Neverland if that's what you're after. And I mean, that makes sense. This seems really horrible and he's not wanting to put himself through that again, but whatever. Brace for impact, because he's telling us about what the shadow feels like. Right now I can feel it swimming under the surface like the spirits of the lagoon, but unlike them, mine wants to watch pretty little girls cry while it buries its in their wet. So the death shadow is a violent R word. And if the shadow is that, it's making Vane that. What a beautiful picture. Thank you so much for sharing. Pan's like, fine, get rid of it. You must have magic anyway. No ordinary person can claim a shadow. Foreshadowing. Vague foreshadowing, not elaborated on. Onward! Pan tells him that before he goes back, he needs to ask him a couple of favors. 1, he needs to go to Hook and ask for permission to enter his territory so they can find his shadow under the guise of looking for a lost boy. 2, contact Vane's brother for help. Brother? Vane hasn't spoken to his brother in years. Not since the last favor they asked him for, but they had payment for that favor. Why would he help now? What do you have? You have a secret, Peter Pan. Spill it. And boy, does he. Wendy darling never went home. Shut the fuck up. Me and Vane actually both said that at the same time. Winnie's grandmother is where? What? Pan explains that when he went to return her, he got off course and they were ambushed and Wendy was taken from him. And since she was of no use to him, he just left her. And where did she end up? Great question. Everland. Clever. Maybe there's a Cleverland and that's where Pan really belongs. Anyway, she was taken. None of this makes any sense for several reasons. If Wendy never went home, how did the darling line continue? Like, how did she continue to have children that were kidnapped on their 18th birthday? How did her trunk make it home? The trunk with the secret compartment with the box that held his shadow they've been searching for generations. If she never went home, how did it get there? And I also don't know why Vane's brother would care. Like, unless Vane's brother is secretly like Michael or John or something. I'm just so tired from this revelation. This one alone. Add to it the lost pussy line, the buffalo wings and cum-filled tummy. Like, I need a nap yesterday. Pan agrees to wait on the second request. They stand in silence for a little bit. But Pan breaks the silence by telling Vane that he will give in to her eventually. And Vane says what we've been saying this whole time. She annoys me and I hate her. Same. Wanting her annoys you, and hate is just an inch away from like. The line is incredibly thin. Vane says he doesn't know what Winnie wants with him. And Pan's like, well, why don't you ask her? And Vane's like you've ever asked her anything. And Pan's like, I'm a king, bro. I don't ask for stuff. I take, and that's what she needs from me. A firm hand from me, and warmth and care from the twins. What role will Vane fill? I'm on the edge of my seat to find out. That's another problem we need to deal with, Vane says. The twins. I know. They're meant to be kings. I know that too. And right now, there are 2 shadows lost on this island. Tension in the group. Pan's trust issues are showing, but one problem at a time. Chapter 9, Winnie. She wakes up in a hot Fey twin sandwich on a hammock in the beach. What? Hot Fey twin brother sandwich in a hammock on the beach. She says it's so cozy here. It reminds her of winter mornings, fireside, wrapped in a blanket with a cup of hot cocoa. And I'd just like to say bullshit. When exactly in your trouble-filled childhood, on the run and being tortured in hopes of evading Peter Pan, who is going to kidnap you on your 18th birthday, did you sit next to a fire and have cocoa? She does go on to say that she only did this once, but I'm still annoyed. Shut the fuck up. She shares some internal monologue about how she cares for the boys, but in different ways. Doesn't really tell us what those ways are or how they're different. I assume it's meant to be obvious at this point, and I think that if it were better written, it would be. All I've gathered, they all fuck her butt good, but that is not different reasons. So I'm still at a loss. Help me. Cherry shows up. How delightful. They are, again, mean to her because they don't like her. She asks some questions because she heard the little scuffle from earlier. And Winnie starts to tell her, but the boy's like, shut her up. It's Cherry, for crying out loud. You can't tell that bitch shut. They all take a moment and watch Vane zipping through the skies because apparently when he's angry, he likes to go flying. Cherry lets that little bit of information slip to Winnie. And Winnie is all, she's happy to tell me and rub it in that she knows something about him that I don't. I'm not here for the competition between the girlies. I know how you girls like to tussle. But spare me. None of this matters. All of it's dumb. Then Winnie exposits a little bit more and it leaves me confused yet again. Both of the boys are shirtless. Their straight line tattoos standing out against their dark skin. Did the twins always have dark skin? Is this a detail that I missed in the first book? I'm not going back. I believe it was Morgan Freeman who said, don't look back. We're not going that way. So I refuse to go back. But if you're reading it or if you know, can you let me know in the comments? Winnie takes another minute to have envy for Cherry because she's had him. I haven't. Talking about Vane. And I want you to remember that she said that, okay? I want you to remember that I just said that. In fact, let me say it again. I'm all of a sudden envious of her. She's had him. I haven't. Log that away for future use, okay? Vane finally stops flitting around and comes down and tells Cherry that he needs her. He has a job for her. And Cherry is so thrilled and bubbly and bright until she finds out what the favor is. I need to speak to your brother and I want you with me. And I am so wrecked with PTSD from all the random incest that pops up in books like this. And so I read this and I was terrified that her brother was Vane's brother too. But then I remembered there's another player on the board. Thank goodness. I almost checkmated myself before I even knew I was on the board. Hook. Cherry's brother's Captain James Hook. And that tracks, because in the first book, they said Cherry used to run with pirates, but she made her choice a long time ago. Chapter 10, Cherry, shut the front door. We have a Cherry POV. I thought this bitch was too insignificant for that. I mean, whatever. Brownie, you remember that little bastard got his own POV in the first book. But we've never had Cherry. This is so special. She's getting ready to accompany Vane to see her brother, Captain James Hook. And she tells us, he gave me 15 minutes to get ready, so I'm going to spend every second one of those. What? So I'm going to spend every single one of those minutes making sure I look cute and enticing. She goes on to detail how skin tight, low cut the dress she chooses to wear is. Without underwear, might I add. And again, I'm aware that as it stands right now, no incest in sight. But you're going to see your brother. And for me personally, the more layers between me and my brother, the better. But who am I? She ruminates a little bit on the darling and how she doesn't hate her, but she doesn't like her either. And she doesn't know why they all like her because, quote, her boobs aren't as big as mine and she's real thin. Shut up. She also talks about if the only way to have Vane is to have the worst of him, I'll wear my bruises proudly. I don't care. Time skip. They're en route to Hook. Cherry's asking a bunch of questions and Vane's getting more irritated with her by the second. She finally asks him if he likes the darling and he tells her to shut the fuck up, and I second that. Chapter 11 belongs to Captain James Hook. Another new POV and potentially the only one that can inspire joy in me at this point. I am hopeful for him not to suck, but I'm also realistic, so I'm just going into this trying to be as neutral as possible. He's shown reading a letter from the Fae Queen. Tilly has reached out to him detailing how now's the time to strike. Peter is weak. Hook is frustrated because they're supposed to be rid of Peter Pan already. How are we still doing this? His phantom limb aches with the memory. And he goes on to tell us about how high quality the paper is that Tilly sent this parchment letter on and how that says a lot about a man. Not feeling super great about the captain right now, I gotta be honest, but let's keep those fingers crossed, you never know. The letter closes with a mention of the crocodile, which I can help you defend yourself against the crocodile should he return to the island. He describes the crocodile in a way that tells us absolutely nothing. Hard lines of his body, sharp teeth, that could describe a man or a crocodile, like a literal crocodile. So I'm not real sure what we're dealing with yet, but again, I am hopeful and ready to be let down by this book simultaneously, because if you think that I like Captain Hook, I like the scaly lizard man better. Just then, the ticking of the clock breaks him from his thoughts. He tears across the deck where the men are, and he spots the source. It's a pocket watch, and he proceeds to smash that with his hook. Then we have one of the most irking parts of the story, just for me personally. Jazz. Smee puts her hand on my arm. We need to talk. Now listen, I am all for creativity when reimagining an already established little world. But Smee, I don't know why this upsets me. I could not have anticipated it upsetting me like this. Even though I think it's pretty cool. Smee's name is Samira, and she's apparently like super important to Captain Hook. And when Cherry was little, she couldn't say Samira, so it became Smee, and that's how she got her nickname. I do think that that's really cute and a clever way to change things up. But this is Smee. This guy, this is Smee right here. This man, this chubby little anxiety-riddled, sort of dumb but lovable goon. And he's at Hook's side all the time. Not what I can only imagine is a hot woman. Like, we have enough of that in this story. You know, Cherry, Winnie Horror, Starla from book 1, and all that lost we keep hearing about. Like, it's enough. And why the hell does she call him Jazz? His name is Captain James Hook. This is ludicrous. Anyway, Smee tells him that his sister's at the gate with the Dark One asking to be let in. So Hook's like, let him in. Because them showing up right when the Fae Queen writes the letter has Hook twirling his mustache inquisitively. Like, I don't know if he has a mustache here. I'm hoping. Time skip, they come together and Hook details his thoughts upon seeing Cherry and the bruises. And he's like, what have they done to you? But he doesn't regret trading her because it was down to her or Smee, and he would never get rid of Smee. Smee would always mean more to him than his little sister. Such a pirate move, to be honest. He hears them out and agrees to let them enter his land in 2 nights to look for the lost boy. But he also asks what's in it for him. That's when Vane drops a bomb on Cherry and me. Some might call it a cherry bomb. We'll give Cherry back to you. As you can imagine, she had no idea about this deal, and she is not happy. Hook says, cool, 2 days, come over. Vane says, cool, we'll give Cherry back in 3. Go team! They leave, and Hook pours 2 glasses of rum, one for him and one for Smee. Hook tells Smee that he's pretty sure that Pan found his shadow. How else would they explain them showing up and the letter from the queen and all that other stuff? So he tells his men that whoever finds the shadow first gets like $20. Hook plans to claim this shadow for himself. Everybody wanting this shadow. And if he does get to claim this shadow, then he can take care of Pan, the Fae Queen, and get Cherry back with no one who can stop him. And I'm sure that will totally work out. Chapter 12, Winnie. Now, I have a hypothesis that you can always tell a chapter is going to belong to Winnie, even if it wasn't labeled, because she just starts it with the stupidest shit. Vane and Cherry have returned from their mission, but Vane is in a bad mood, and so is Cherry, though their bad moods are the difference between chocolate and a volcano. Hey, scamps! Lean in close. Bring it in with old Nat, okay? Take a knee. I will give you this $20 bill if you can tell me what the hell that means. The twins are out for a midnight run because this is apparently something that they do. Never heard about it before, but whatever, we're character building. Vane and Cherry are not approachable right now because one of them is angry like a volcano and one of them is angry like chocolate. Rage. What am I angry like? Leave it in the comments below. Winnie hears rustling around in the Never Tree and finds Pan just snooping around his own stuff looking for something. Apparently, he is looking for a magical object to tether his shadow to him. Sure. Winnie takes this moment to linger around, offering no help and asking for advice on how she can get to Vane. She also asks if Vane is sleeping with Cherry. And remember that sentence I told you to keep in your frontal cortex? She's had him. I haven't. Yeah, Winnie's incredibly stupid, but again, they don't call her Winnie the Brain. Ken tells her that he's not sure if Vane's still sleeping with Cherry, but that she needs to stop trying so hard to get him. It's never gonna work. And I about fell out of my chair. When I read this, I've been saying this whole time to all of them. Stop trying so hard, but no luck. He finds his tether that he's looking for, and it's a small, shiny black shell that Mary, Winnie's mother, gave him. It doesn't make sense that this would tether the shadow to him because Mary was there long after he first lost his shadow. So he said she gave it to him one night at the lagoon after he took her there because it made her feel better or whatever. And she gave it to him and said that she had it because she was worried about the baby. Did you hear me say the baby? The baby. Apparently, she was pregnant with Winnie Hoare on Neverland, which makes 0 sense. Again, Wendy never went home, right? But somehow her trunk in the shadow did. And Wendy somehow kept the darling line going even though she was stuck in Everland. And now we have a gestating Mary on the island with fetus Winnie riding shotgun. And I still don't know how the fuck the seashell is supposed to tether a shadow to him that he lost before Mary even existed. How does Mary even exist? How does Winnie exist? How does any of this? Chapter 13, Pan. He talks more about Mary's pregnancy. Mary was like a little sister to them all, so I guess they didn't bone her.
You are not the father.
But then how is she pregnant? They discuss it, but it gives me nothing except Winnie being like, when I first got here, that explains why I felt like I'd been here before because I guess technically I have. And Pan was all like, perhaps that's why when she's in my arms, I feel like I've come home. But I'll never tell her that. I'll never tell her that ever. Okay, then so don't. Fuck, why are you telling me? She hands him the seashell back and he asks her to come to bed with him. And she says, ask nicely. And boy, does he? Come to bed with me, my little darling whore, so I can shove my in your wet and make you beg for mercy. 4,560 people highlighted that. But I guess that is better than I'm full of Peter Pan, which is a line that came not too after it. He tells her to hurry because the sun's setting, and remember, he's got like a vampire rule for some reason. So she heads to his cave. Chapter 14, Winnie again. He draws her a bath, and she takes note of his room and how it's so quintessentially him. Dark emerald emerald walls, a gray, sumptuous duvet cover. The books lining the shelves, and she says that she loves that he and Vane read so much. I'd be surprised if Winnie knows how to read. I don't think they know how to read. They're probably just pretending. I fear that this entire chapter will just be raunch, but let me check for some lowlights. So her is throbbing, tight, taut. I hate it here. She is ready for him, and he starts washing her and asks her a few times if she's filthy. And she's like, when will this torture end? 20 more chapters, Winnie Bug. Buckle in. He soaps up a washcloth and squeezes it over her and then goes to rub it on her. You're just not supposed to do that. Cut to an ad for Monistat. He is positioned and moving in a way that I can only describe as hot dogging it. Or as Winnie put it, fucking I'm unwell. You're so wet, darling. You're in the bath covered in soap. And the word of the day here is viscosity, right? I understand that there's a difference between water wet, soap wet, and whatever this is. But I hate these people. They are so dumb, and I owe them nothing. They arrive at their destination in tandem. Love that for them. Quote, the hot seat of Peter Pan making a mess of my... I need a break. Chapter 15, Cass. They're still running. They do it every day, apparently. And from where they're at, they can see their old Fey palace territory, wherever. Cass has to take a second because he's got to tie his hair back up. Bash doesn't have long hair, so now we know the difference between them. That's it. And they're talking about their banishment, and then when Cass is putting his hair up, we cut to this quote, talking about Bash and his decision to cut his hair. If our family doesn't want me any longer, then I don't want the custom. I wish you could feel what I was feeling right now. Anyway, apparently long hair is a symbol of virility and whatever from the Fae people, and it was a story told to them by their nanny, I don't know, which I guess they're going to tell me about. Woo! Something about grass and how we touch the grass and the grass remembers. Same for our hair. We touch the hair, we caress the hair, we brush the hair, and the hair remembers. Nanny hated Tinkerbell, their mother, loves hair, loves grass, hates Tink, got it. They talk about their sister and how she's probably plotting something and how they didn't even get a chance to explain why they unalived their father. I wonder if she knows, or if she would ever forgive them and let them return. But who cares about that? Pan would never let us take Winnie. Can't have that. He ruminates a little bit more, and I'm exhausted, and Cass is finally like, we should go pay our sister a visit. And Bash is like, okay. So they go. Time skip. We're at the palace, and Bash is like, think we'll be shot on sight. Cass is like, it's a possibility. What the fuck? You just casually, mid-run, when your endorphins and your adrenaline are pumping, you just decided to wander in to the territory you were banished from. They de-winged you, man, after you unalived your father, the king. And now you're just gonna breeze up in there, even though getting shot on sight is a possibility? They approach the palace and they take it all in. And I honestly think it sounds great. It's built out of some sort of sparkly stone that was mined. All the brownies work together to build it. They consider turning back. They don't. Riveting. I know. Time skip again. They don't get shot, and they approach the palace gates and the guards standing in front of those gates, and they ask to be let in. And the guards are terrible at their job and just let them in. Just let them right in. They get looks as they walk through the halls, and then Tilly finds them. She's like, what do you want? And they're like, we want our wings back. And she's like, leave us. And everyone leaves, and she flutters down off the throne and pours herself multiple goblets of Fey wine. A power move if I ever saw one. They chat. The twins are like, what are you planning? Brownie told us everything before we unalived him, but Tilly's not falling for it. Oh no. All of this is so boring. They ask for their wings back. Tilly's like, nah. They're like, yeah. She's like, no, you're in trouble. I'm paraphrasing. And they're like, what if we weren't? And she's like, how? Ultimately, she says that she wants Peter Pan dead, and if they'll help, she'll give them their wings back and unbanish them. They tell her why they unalived their dad, because apparently he had some plot to marry her off and disinherit them from the throne and all this stuff. And they're hoping that she'll get some clarity on the situation and maybe not be so angry at them, but she knew about it the whole time. So then, after specifically telling me that they shouldn't use their Fae talk here because Tilly can hear it also, they use their Fae language to say, let's get her, and then they go to charge. But of course, she heard them and turns the ground to quicksand. It's an illusion, but it does the job just the same. She tells them that she knew everything, that she doesn't care, that she was willing to do whatever it took so that she was in power. And now she plans to summon the crocodile to deal with Hook and Pan. Ooh. too. Ugh, fingers still so crossed for the crocodile. Chapter 16, Winnie. Carrying on the tradition of starting each chapter with idiotic things, Winnie wakes up with Pan rock hard at her back and says she's muzzy with sleep. And I know muzzy is a word, and I'm pretty sure that this is used correctly, but it is still stupid, and all I think of is
Muzzy.
Pan wakes up, grumbles a little bit, says, Vane's coming. And Darling steels herself because remember, we're playing hard to get. We are not trying too hard. Not anymore. Let's see how that goes. Vane barges in, calls her a whore. She's like, better a whore than no one. Pan says, you could join us. And Vane says, I don't waste my time with easy. But is that the truth, Vane? Is that the truth? And Winnie takes this opportunity to slut shame Cherry. If you don't like easy, why fuck Cherry? Love it. And he says, cause she ain't you. She's like, you know what? Not trying anymore. Not trying really hard. And then she proceeds to try harder than anyone has ever tried before. She's fully nude still, leans over to kiss Pan goodbye, and presents her ass to Vane like one of those baboons in the zoo. So much for not trying hard, huh? She stumbles in her exit and Vane catches her, tells her to put some salve on that neck. It'll help with the bruising. And she leaves so he can talk to the king. I hate this book. Time skip. She's upstairs in a dress and she just starts groping the twins who were not doing anything or bothering anyone. They seem tense though. So she walks up to Cass and just grabs him by the balls and says, are you okay? Good thinking, Win. Bash is like, please leave. We've had a rough day. So then she stops groping Cass, walks over to Bash, reaches her hand in, and does the same thing. I'm exhausted. Chapter 17, Bash. They're both hard as granite standing in the kitchen as Winnie saunters away, and their little Fae language or whatever, they're like, we're not just gonna let her get away with that, are we? Blah. Finally, they end their convo with, get the rope. Cass is like, you don't have to tell me twice. Yay. They tie her up and they talk and they kiss and they tease and whatever. They tie her up like to the tree, I think. Like the Never tree that's the center of their little loft live in there. He comments on how small she is and how exciting all of this is. I'm sorry, I have to take a second. None of this makes any sense. Not the fact that two hot guys want to double team a girl. Sure, that probably happens every day. Not them being aroused by tying up a hottie. That too also happens every day, I'm sure. There is nothing about Winnie that makes her different than any of the other thirsty lost pussy on the island. And there's plenty, remember? They tell us all the time. Every single girl on this island, they could snatch one of them up, bring them into the treehouse, and they would be just as eager and willing to have all of this done. And it makes me so irritated because this could have been good and it's not. If the author had an interest in making this good and dynamic and intriguing, she would have written Winnie as a girl who is bogged down by all of her troubles, but reclaiming her power through exploring her sexuality. And I think that was the attempt. Right? I mean, we can all kind of agree with Starla and the promiscuity, but Winnie's dumb. She lacks any depth whatsoever. Plus, she's freshly 18. They tell us constantly how she feels like home, how she makes the place feel warm, makes them feel warm, how she takes that dick like a good girl. But, like, why does she feel like home? Have we seen any evidence to prove these claims that they're making? She showed up to Neverland, dumber than a box of hair, clearly unwell from years of abuse and neglect, with the nickname Winnie Whore from being constantly underneath a football, basketball, baseball player at a high school that she doesn't even go to in order to feel something. So instead of a sexually empowered, knowledgeable badass, we got young, dumb, full of cum Winnie Whore, and it just could have been better. And it wasn't, and I'm annoyed about that. Like, age her up a little bit. Have her going through her sexual reawakening to claim her power. Exploring kink and being knowledgeable and using her sexuality to work through her problems. That's believable and it's interesting. Then you have these boys who are all so hot, but they haven't actually had to work for anything. They're just hot. They don't have to be good at anything. Plus, they have a very limited worldview since their entire worldview is Neverland, with time standing still. So then you can bring her to the island and have her presence and her knowledge and her insight complete them in a way that excites and intrigues them, and it would be obvious to the audience why they would be so intrigued by such a dynamic female main character. God damn it, right there. Okay, I'm done. Let's keep going. God bless. Where were we? Oh, they tie her to the tree. And they tell her that they're going to make her so much it hurts. Can't hurt worse than reading this book. I promise you that. Chapter 18, Winnie. Woo! Thank goodness we get to hear about this from Winnie's POV. Love it. Can't wait. Cass knows what he's doing when it comes to tying ropes. Oh, yeah? Again, how disappointing is this entire thing? The boys discuss briefly giving her a safe word, and I need to yell about it, but we'll wait. I'm just getting ahead of myself. Hold on. She's instructed to get herself to her destination, if you know what I mean, with his hand. So she's like all up on one of them while the other one is holding her by the throat, and she says, "I mule for them." And I screamed. I did. Lots of talking going on here, but I cannot bring myself to read it to you. Just know that one of them's going in one hole and the other one's going in the other one. And then they said, "You'll be full of fake." They talk about her noises too, how she's like macaroni in a pot and all that. Now we're back to the safe word. Okay. And this is where my outline stops. So we're just going to wing it from here. But I needed to ask you before we get to the part with the safe word. I wanted to give you this opportunity to guess what her safe word will be. Okay. At the time, my mind was racing with possibilities and I had multiple guesses in different ways. The first one was something really stupid. Something stupid, but something connected, like twinkle, right? That's a sparkly magical word. This is a sparkly magical world. And it makes sense that it would be something like twinkle. My next thought was something that is kind of a direct hit, but not that deep of a cut, more like a flesh wound. So like cloudberry. And then I thought something really deep that I won't know what it is until it resurfaces or they spoon feed explain it to me. And then I go, oh yeah. And my last thought was that they just don't give her one. Cast your votes below. Get ready for the reveal. I had to go find my e-reader for it. Something is definitely bothering them, but I seem to be reaping the benefit of it. The air around them practically crackle. Her safe word is crackle. And when I read that, I screamed because I said twinkle. I nailed it. Do you know how disappointing that is to be good at something that you never wanted any part of? Do you have any idea? Well, here I am being great at it. So her safe word is crackle. So they have her strung up, right? And they're making her arrive over and over again. She's like, I can't, no more. But she's not using the safe word, right? She's quicksand. I welcome. We will never get out and I don't want to. Pull me under, darling. Drown yourselves. Okay, so they're making her come again and again and again and again and blah, blah, blah. And she's like a rag doll at this point. And they're like, are you still with us, darling? And she's like, I'm here. And they're like, one more. And she's like, no, I can't. She's still not using the safe word though. So, woo. And then she's finally like a wet sock. And she's like, I can't do it anymore. And they're like, do you doubt me? And she's like, no. And he's like, do you doubt me? And then they illusion her. Or so she thinks. She's not sure. She's not sure if they're illusioning her or not. But what are they doing? Natalie, tell us. Okay, calm down. Hold them horses. She gets fucked by the tree. I know. You think that I'm not stunned? You think that I'm not shooketh from this revelation? I'm just minding my business, reading along. I did a vlog on this, and you can see it in real time if you're a paid member of the channel. You can see what happens when I stumble across this part of the book that I had no preparation for. Like, of course, when I read Vera Valentine and she's got her main character humping up on a door, I know that. I know what I'm about to have happen. Didn't expect this. Now I'm forever changed. Day ruined. A sharp gasp rushes down my throat and Cass forces my face up again, forcing me to look at him as the vine slithers up to my... I don't know if this is actually happening or if it's one of his clever illusions, but it feels very, very real as a soft feathered tendril flicks at my... Now, I don't know how this plays into their whole 4 hungry men and only us deal. Is there a tree clause that I wasn't aware of? Apparently. So vines everywhere doing all the things, and then one slithers inside. See, because at one point I was like, oh, well, maybe they're just enchanting the vines and they hold her a little tighter than the ropes do. No, she fully has sex with this tree. She arrives again. Thank you, tree. Thank you for your service. And then they let her loose from the ropes and have her like sit on one of their faces and lift up her dress so the other one can watch that one eat her up. And I have siblings, okay? I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be in the room. I honestly, if you can't wait until I'm not in the house, I'll leave. I'll just leave. I will leave right now. It's not that serious. This is just not for me. Blech. Chapter 19 belongs to Cass, just like Winnie's butt, front. I don't remember. She's exhausted. She can't do it again, but of course she does, and she's not using her safe word, so rock on, Winnie. One of them comes to the front, one at the back, and they enter her, and then they all come together. Isn't that lovely? Ugh. Then at the end of the chapter, we get this lovely little diatribe from Cass as I slam into her, as she clenches around me as we her together, hard and fast and relentless. I realize one terrifying truth. I'll pick her over Tilly and the Fae Court. I will pick Darling over my own wings because with her, I'm already flying. Chapter 20. Winnie. The twins me so hard my teeth clack together. Hope there's a dentist on the island. And then one of them, I don't remember which one, is like, we come together. Okay, sport. So they do. Peter Pan and Vane show up after they've concluded their business transactions with one another. I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Pan's like, word of advice, darling. Don't ever let the twins tie you up. And she's like, I rather enjoyed it. Shut up. And then Vane comes around and he's like, I thought I told you to put salve on. And she's like, I do what I want. So he gets the salve and gets her something to drink and whatever. I don't know. I don't care. They all start trying to take care of her and bickering, which we love to see aftercare. We truly, truly do. Aftercare, safe words, consent, communication. We love it. We really do. But they're going back and forth and they're like, y'all should have eased her into this twin stuff. And they're like, excuse me, you had her crawl to you the other night. Blah, blah, blah. So they're going back and forth. And then finally Winnie stands up. Enough! Are you ready? I don't think you are. I'm not. Let's get something straight. You're all assholes, all right? But you're my assholes. I didn't have to stay on my knees for Pan, and I didn't have to push Vane to the brink, and I certainly didn't have to get tied to a tree. I chose those things. I choose all of you. Even you, Vane. So stop treating me like a fragile toy. I'm not. This is so stupid. I hope you're ready. I'm a china cup that has been broken so many times, I'm never sure if I'm a cup or just separate pieces held together by glue and sheer determination, molded into a cup-like shape. I know how to crack, and I know how to mend. At least with all of you, I know I will never mend alone. I hate this book. They all get quiet and they're like, maybe she's right. And then they just kind of chill and start talking about the actual plan of the events that are unfolding around them and how they're going to get the shadow back and stuff, which is good because I know that this is like mostly erotica purely for the vibes and whatever, but there is actually a story here that I was initially interested in. Oh well, disappointment knows me by name. They discuss what's going on and it's at Cherry's expense that he's going to let us explore the island and look for this lost boy. And Winnie's like, should I talk to her? I think the fuck not. What the fuck do you have to say? And then the twins also tell them that they visited their dear sister and that she's planning something to do with the crocodile. But who is the crocodile or what? Chapter 21 belongs to Peter Pan. He's like a little horned up because she's sitting in his lap, but this is not the time for that when the crocodile's on his way. Okay, wait. Hook and Pan share an enemy and it's Fane's brother? And he's a crocodile? Her confusion's adorable. We're nothing alike. Cass snorts. They're exactly alike, but Rock is taller and better looking, adds Bash. The facts are, darling, that my dear brother will have a bone to pick with our infamous Never King when he finds out the secrets he's been keeping. What secrets? And this is when she finds out that her great-grandmother is just on an island somewhere, potentially frozen in time, and alive and moderately well. No. Yes. How? Where? He took a wrong turn on the way back, Vane says, and left her on an island known as Everland. Color paints the darling's cheeks a pretty shade of angry red. Tell me that's not true. I can't. I won't. Pan! It was a very long time ago, darling, and I was a much different man. You loved her? Looks like you're sleeping on the couch tonight, Bash says. Wendy Darling is not my problem. That's Pan. To her great-great-granddaughter. And her being off Neverland is much better for us when the crocodile arrives. How do you figure? Because I will use the information as leverage, and once he finds out where she is, he'll be eager to race off and fetch her. Why? Because Crocodile was in love with Wendy. Darling's like, what happened? And Pan begins to begrudgingly explain. When I brought Wendy to the island, Rock was here visiting Vane. My rule about not touching a darling has always pertained to me and the Lost Boys. Rock was not about to follow my rules, and Wendy, as we've established, was a brat like you. Determined, fierce, easy to fall for. Yeah, I thought that Peter Pan was in love with Wendy. It was around that time, too, that Rock cut off Hook's hand. Hook took her from me. He obviously didn't want to retrieve my shadow, and he had always tried fucking with the darlings to keep me from the information. And it was at that time that Rock cut his hand off. We got Wendy back, but something had changed. Something between her and Rock. He asked her to stay. She said no, so I took her back. Except on the journey to the mortal realm, I took a wrong turn and ended up in Neverland. We were quickly surrounded. Leaving her there was an easy decision. I had no allegiance to her, and it was her family that took my shadow in the first place. I wanted my revenge against the Darlings, and this was an easy, albeit cruel, way of getting it. I can't believe you just left her. And I thought he said that he was a different man now. He does not seem sorry for this at all. He wasn't sorry about it when he told Vane in the first couple of chapters. He's not sorry that he did this. So what's different? Promise me we'll get her back. We won't have to. Rock will do it for us. Like, this is a very tense situation, right? All of this revelation, and Pan's like, all right, in the meantime, let's party so I can forget about all of this. Bash gets up. Now you're talking. No, girls. All three of us look at her and nod. There she is giving me orders again, and I'm the asshole that's beginning to follow them. She also said go fucking get Wendy. But no. Party first! Chapter 22. Cherry. She was eavesdropping and heard the whole conversation. How they plan to give Cherry back, that no one cares, that now Winnie has all of them, and Wendy is still alive. She heard everything. Now Winnie has them? All of them? All to herself? How many men can one girl have? So she runs back to her house, wherever that is, and she opens the door, and something dark darts across the room and slashes at her. I think her arm or something. And she yells, exclaims, if you will, holy berries and balls! That's a Neverland shadow. That's a Neverland shadow. So it's a Neverland shadow. I don't know if you heard. And it's trapped in her room. That can't be good. Chapter 23, Hook. How hard is it to find one fucking shadow? I don't know why. That's the voice that came to me. He talks about how much he hates Peter Pan, how nervous he is about getting the shadow, why it's taking so long, blah, blah, blah. And Smee comes in. What is it? I don't think I like him. Tilly has summoned the crocodile. At the port of Summerland, the crocodile arrived 2 days ago and left quickly after. So we've got Neverland, Everland, Darkland, Summerland, and Sugarland. Blue. I cannot wait to find out what other lands. These are all so clever. If there's not a clever land, I riot at dawn. I will not rest until he's dead. Double the rewards, me. Tell the men now. Whoever brings me Pan's shadow will be rich by tomorrow night, but only if they find it before then. All this chapter did for me was let me know that this is not the of my dreams. It's just not. 24. Winnie, Pan, Bash, and Cass are all drunk and they're shooting rocks out into the ocean with a slingshot, like boys being boys. And Winnie feels called somewhere, so she starts just wandering off and she ends up at the lagoon and she finds Vane floating in the lagoon by himself, nude. You just gonna stand there and gape or get in? Gape? I want to get in the water so badly it makes my skin itch. But I can't tell if it's the water, the spirits, the magic calling to me, or one very dark and broody death shadow. Gets undressed, because if he's nude, I'm going to be nude too. Is this when we get the Vane dick? Is this when it happens? Ugh! She gets in, there's spirits everywhere. And she's like, do they bite? And he's like, not if they like you. My heart thuds against my eardrums. Thuds? Cause shut the fuck up. She talks about the lagoon and how it reminds her of going to the beach with her mom and how it makes sense now that she knows she was pregnant with her in the lagoon and she liked the lagoon and now every time they went to the water it would calm her down. None of this matters. I've been craving Vane's attention since Pan brought me to Neverland, but now that I have it and have him alone, I don't know what to do with him. He's bigger than me, and I'm not talking size, presence, power, energy. More passion, more passion. Why are you here, darling? I don't know. I was drawn here, I think. Why are you here? To get away from you. Why? What have I done to make you hate me so damn much? Every little thing. Everything. I don't understand you. I don't like things I don't understand. I'm not a thing. I'm a person. A naughty, darling girl. Skirt! What are we doing? Vane? Hold tight. Hold the line. They're close now, and he's like grabbed her by the waist. I don't hate you. I just like the way you make me feel. Typical. Shut up. Which is hell. Reckless. Dangerous. I told you once already before. Yes, I know, darling. You're stronger than you look. I don't need you to protect me. I don't want to protect you. I want to fuck you until you tremble beneath me. Stop. I pant out a mule of delight. If you say mule one more time. So why don't you? Because those bruises on your neck would be the least of your worries. I don't care. You get no safe word from me. Oh, come on now, Vane. We need a safe word. Just fuck me already. He kisses her. Then his eye starts to go black. And he's like, go! Get out of the water, slowly. He says, walk away. She's like, what if I don't? And he's like, I won't tell you again. And then she figures it all out. The cogs fit into place. Even gone to the shadow, he's still cognizant of my safety. And it suddenly clicks, the real secret to unraveling Vane. I was wrong about him, so was Peter. It's not that I have to try harder or try less. It's that I have to be exactly who I
am. Every ugly, broken part. I have to be vulnerable, and maybe that terrifies me most of all. Show him all of my cracks and let him make his own on my skin. I have endured. I can endure him if it's the only way I can have him. He must read something in my body because he slowly shakes his head, grits his teeth, and says, Winnie, don't. I turn and run.
So that's the secret. Whoop-dee. Chapter 25, Winnie's on the run. She is in motion, and Vane is right behind her, and he catches her, and he's like, I told you not to run. She's like, I want this. Blah, 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 blah. I don't care. He enters her.
He's so big it hurts on impact, and my teeth clack together.
I will split this wet in two.
He me hard, fast, brutally. The tree rattles above us.
They're up against a tree. If this tree fucks her too, I quit. I will give the money back, Lee. He kind of starts to get unhinged again, and she's like, I'm gonna die. So what she does instead of dying is reach up and grab a branch, bring it down, and stab herself in the hand. Sure. Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense because remember she had blood on her tootsies and she was like somehow in danger a little bit on the shore. She put those little pieces together in her noggin and figured out that what brings him back and grounds him even when the shadow of death takes over is her in pain. So after he like chills out a little bit, she's like, do it now. So then they do, and they both arrive and we love it. Great. And then at the end, she's very pleased with herself and he's like, you think you won something? She's like, I did. I've had you. You're mine now. Blah, blah, blah. And then they have a conversation about how she really enjoyed him cutting off her oxygen. And if she does it again in a controlled circumstance, she would be into that. And he's like, get out. He also makes her promise that if he gets too far gone, she will stab him in the face. And she's like, sure. Chapter 26 is Cherry. And I want to say there must have been a chapter quota because these go so fast. There's like almost nothing to them. So it's going to feel like we're going really fast, but it's in fact the book. I'm doing my best. Chapter 26 belongs to Cherry. Cherry is gotten herself into a little pickle, hurt her own feelings because she was eavesdropping again. She was in the woods and she saw Vane roughly take Winnie against a tree and she's devastated. But she also has a shadow trapped in her house and maybe she takes Winnie there and we can't do that. Or can we? Chapter 27, Peter Pan. They're still blitzed on the beach, and instead of throwing rocks into the ocean now, they are just launching Lost Boys into the air. Boys being boys. The three of them like have a quick little conversation about what exactly Tilly offered them, and the twins are like, she offered to give us our wings back and unbanish us. And Pan's like, listen, I can't give you wings, but if you stay loyal to me and help me get my shadow, I can help you stage a coup. And they're like, aces. Chapter 28. See what I'm telling you about these chapters? They are just going. Next to nothing happening, but they are going, and they are here, and so are we. Chapter 28, Winnie. She and Vane come back into the treehouse, and the others are like, where have y'all been? And Winnie's very proud of herself. She's like, fucking. Pan starts to come over and like baby her and put some more salve on her neck, but Vane like grabs her and calls dibs on her for the night and whisks her back off to his room. And she enters his room and explains the surroundings. It's like another duvet, which is really bothersome to me. I don't even like a duvet because they're difficult to put on and they get all jumbled up. You think these whatever. Large bed, thick posters with carvings, ornate carvings in the headboard and the footboard, stacks of books, trinkets. She's worried that it's all an illusion and it's just gonna go away. I'm worried you're gonna go away, Vane. And Vane's like, get in bed. And so they snuggle and he's like, I'm here. Can you feel that I'm here? And she's like, promise me you won't leave. And he's like, what? And she's like, I promise to stab you in the face. So you have to promise me that you won't leave. And he does. Chapter 29, Hook. Captain James Hook. Smee wakes him up and he like explodes out of bed and almost takes her out with his hook. Don't do that, Smee. And Smee's like, how else am I supposed to wake you up? I'm here to tell you that one of our men found the shadow. And he's like, splendid. I don't think he actually says splendid, but you know, it's a vibe.
Sublime!
They go out and they find him. They're like, oh my God, get a treasure chest. Lock the shadow in there. And then he and Smee have to get down to business. They have to figure out how he's gonna claim this shadow before Peter Pan gets here. Chapter 30, Winnie. They're all inside the treehouse waiting for Pan to wake up. Vampire rules, remember? Today's the day they go to Hook's. Vane is sitting in the corner of the couch reading a book. Winnie has her head in his lap, sprawled across the couch the other way. And Bash has his head between her legs. And he's like, I could use a taste. And then Winnie, throwing every ounce of let's not try so hard into the lagoon with the rocks and the Lost Boys, says, I'm full of Vane's cum, but go ahead.
She ruminates a little bit. She's like, is this what my life is now? Could this really be my forever?
And Pan finally shows up and he's like, we got some work to do. We gotta go to Hook. We gotta go. You too, Winnie. But get dressed, put more clothes on, because only we get to look at you. They also do this little pinball exchange with her where she's like up on Pan and then Pan like tosses her to Vane and Vane's like fucking around with her a little bit. She sachets away, giving them a little peek of what they'll get to enjoy once the mission's completed. Great. Chapter 31, Peter Pan. He and Vane watch her as she saunters down the hallway, and he looks at Vane and he's like, you really have it under control? Enough. So that's fun. They have a little discussion about how he's ready to be rid of the Death Shadow, and Pan's like, what do we do with the Neverland Death Shadow? And he's like, let one of the twins have it. And they decide that Cass could probably handle it because he's the practical one. He's patient. He's reliable. This is the first I'm hearing of it, but okay. And Pan makes Vane promise that he's going to keep his shadow until all of this is sorted out. And Vane's like, I won't leave us vulnerable, but my brother coming to the island will complicate things. It'll drudge up our past. I know, but I don't really. I don't know their story, just the outline of it, and even that's fuzzy. One problem at a time. Too many fucking problems. I got 99 problems, but they didn't say that. Speaking of problems, have you seen Cherry? If we show up at Hook's doorstep without her, we might have an issue. I haven't seen her. She'll turn up eventually, and then we'll shoo her home like a feral cat. Let's go bust some pirate ass then and get your shadow back. I'm tired of being the most powerful one in the group. Fucking asshole. When I have it back, let's race through the clouds. I'll enjoy beating you. Blah. Chapter 32 belongs to Cass, and I'm tickled because it's more than 2 pages. I don't know what happened, but Cass has a long one. It's 4 pages. Cass is like brooding the whole way. Like they're all walking in a group towards Hook's territory, you know, and he's broody. And of course, Winnie, being the special sunflower that she is, she's like, what's up? Nothing. What is it? And he finally just says, I'm angry at my sister. No one gives a shit. And Bash comes up and he's like, he hates that we have to kill her. And she's like, you do? Yeah. What else is there? And then the twins have a little back and forth. They're like, she's our sister. She betrayed us. It's either you or her, brother. Blah, 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 blah. And then they talk about, like, what if they take the palace back? They unalive Tilly and they take their power back. What are they going to do? Quote, do we plan to return to the palace, send the darling between our house like a little child of divorced parents? The fact that she's actually a child still is just bothersome. They inch into his territory a little bit more and Pan's like, you feel that? My shadow.
What does that mean?
It means someone has it cornered. So they know that Hook has the shadow now, right? Chapter 33, Peter Pan. He talks about his opinions of Hook and how it shaped when he took Wendy, but then it was confirmed when he traded off his own sister instead of Smee. Who does that with their family? Like, Pan, now that we're all standing in the middle of the road that leads straight to Hook's house at the bay, I can't help but wonder if I should be worried about him more than I did. Or at the very least, if I should have made sure to bring Cherry with us. Why wouldn't you bring Cherry with you? So they're there. They know the shadow's cornered. They know that Hook probably has it, and that he's on to them. Pan takes a second, and then he asks everybody, what about let's kill some pirates, eh, boys? And they're like, cool. And then he says to Vane, I have another idea for you. How fast can you fly back to the house? Time skip. Vane retrieves it. I bet it's a clock. They slip into places and Bash, Cass, when we get close to Hook's house, I want you to stay in the woods with our darling. Vane and I will go into the house. If that's where he's keeping the shadow, I'll know once we're close. The twins nod. Everyone know their place? They all nod their agreement, even darling. I can't wait for this to be over so I can bury my inside of her flush with power. She'll be trembling beneath me.
Ooh, great.
They're getting closer and they're like, what are the chances that we get in without anybody noticing? And then all of a sudden, Peter Pan, I assure you, your lost boy isn't here in my house. Hook comes down the grand staircase, his hands clasped behind his back. He's wearing one of those ridiculous overcoats with gold embroidery around the collar and down the lapel. He's ditched the stupid fucking tights and buckle shoes and replaced them with a more practical trouser and leather boots. Ew. I'm gonna ask you one more time, James. Where's my shadow? I already told you. I don't know. Besides, aren't you missing one from your party? Where's Cherry? Pan starts to charge. Hook's like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And Smee is off to the side with a pew-pew. And then he looks at Vane and he knows that Vane has the death shadow on deck. And Pan gives him a barely noticeable nod from across the room. But just as the dark shadow comes out to play, the Fae Queen slams through the door, our darling caught in her grasp. Oh no! Chapter 34, Peter Pan. Not real sure we needed 2 of these. That was barely a chapter. I'm sure this one is less than. The twins look really glazed over. She has illusioned them and stolen the darling. Oh, bother. Shit is about to get real. Tilly and Hook obviously have the upper hand here. But Hook's like, wait, they did not bring my sister. I would just like some kind of proof that she's all right. Or near. And Pan decides that it would be a good idea to antagonize him further by telling him she's in a metal box at the bottom of the ocean. No! Hook charges. Chapter 35. Peter Pan again. Why? Why does she do this? All of this could have been just one fucking Peter Pan chapter. This is so stupid. Hook charges and it's the distraction that they need. The Dark One comes to the front and grabs Darling and gets her back. Darling and Vane out. Peter can feel his shadow somewhere. He knows that it's stressed. It knows that it's cornered. Hook grabs him and he's like, how could you? Pan is like, she kicked and screamed the whole time. And Hook is obviously like emotionally driven in this moment. And then Pan reaches into his pocket and pulls out the watch. I told you it was a watch. Obviously this causes a trauma response in old James. And he's like, he's here. The crocodile is here. He's not, but he's freaking out anyway. But before he starts freaking all out, he does stab Peter in the stomach with his hook. So that's fun. And then as Hook is like back into a corner, curled up, freaking out because he thinks the crocodile is near, this is the opportunity Pan needed so he can go and get his shadow. And he tells him, don't you dare run away from me again. And he opens the chest. If the next chapter is Peter Pan, I want to fight someone. Chapter 36, Winnie. Thank goodness I'm not in the mood to fight today. Look at these nails. I can't be fighting. I'm flying and clutched in Vane's arms, held tightly around the solid line of his body. Don't look down, darling. So he leaves. He's out. He takes Winnie and gets her back to the house. But there are pirates in the house and they have a scuttle. They fight. And once those pirates are, dealt with, she's like, you have to go. Pan needs you. So Vane, again, just leaves and goes back to help. He leaves her with strict instructions. Go to Pan's tomb, lock yourself in, don't come out until we come back. And she is on her way until Cherry finds her first. What are you doing here? So you and Vane. It's okay. I knew it would never last with him. I mean, I tried for a really long time and then you came along. Of course he was gonna pick you over me. Cherry, it's okay. But she doesn't look like it's okay. Can you help me with something though? I heard something in my room.
Don't do it, Winnie!
All right, I'll help. But then we have to get down to Pan's tomb. And Cherry's like, okay, it'll just be real quick. Chapter 37 is Pan. We're back in the action. Tilly slams into Pan just as he gets the chest open and the shadow darts out. Motherfucking fuck. Literally. She stabs him. Pan is not having a good time here. Rapidly losing fluids and the fight. He has some words with Tilly and she digs the knife in deeper and he coughs up blood. And Vane shows up in the nick of time and he requests the shell. So Pan digs it out of his pocket and tosses it to Vane. Thank goodness they had their shell with them because he just holds it out and the shadow gets sucked into it and stuck there, so sure. Vane tosses it back to him. Pan catches it. All the while, he's been stabbed in the abdomen. Stabdomen. He drops the shell to the floor, breaks it open, and he hunches down on all fours. Winnie? I didn't know Winnie was still here. And he claims the shadow for his own. Whee! Chapter 38, Bash. So apparently, once Pan claimed the shadow, Tilly said, F this, I'm out. Bash is giving us like a front row seat to Pan claiming his shadow, but it's not that exciting. He's like vibrating in the air and the wah and the roar and he gets it. Bash and Cass like bow to him, which is weird. And Pan's like, get up. Literally get up. This is so embarrassing. And the twins are like, we made our choice. We're with you. And I don't know why I don't trust them, but I don't like any of these people, so who cares? Pan then turns to Hook and he says, you're a man who can make his own choices, but if you choose to stand against me, you're making the wrong one. Hook, struggling for air, says in return, help me stand against the crocodile and we have a deal. That's not a negotiation. Worth a shot. I'll think about it. And then he asks about Cherry and Pan's like, she's been at the house the whole time, you weirdo. I was lying to you. And then they're all like, let's get home to our darling. Chapter 39, Cherry. Wow. She leads old Winnie Whore down to her room to help get a parakeet who is locked in there out. And then they're going to go to Pan's tomb and safely barricade themselves inside until the boys come back. Right? No, wrong. She gets to the door opens. Cherry shoves her in and she's like, Cherry, what? Oh my God. Ah! She's literally begging for Cherry to open the door. And Cherry, cold as ice, leaves her in there. And then all of a sudden, silence. I'm terrified of opening. Will the shadows just race out past me? Do I have to worry about it? Will there be blood? What will be left of Winnie? Light spills from the crack beneath the door. A shadow stretches in it. What the? I straighten, wipe my hands against my pants, and then reach out for the doorknob, hand shaking the entire time. My shirt is thumping on my chest, heart racing so fast. So like a fucking cartoon character. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk. Stupid. I turn the knob and push the door in. It creaks on its hinges, and I spot Winnie in the middle of the room, standing among the wreckage of my favorite things. Winnie? She says nothing. I lick my lips and inhale deeply. Winnie? She slowly turns to me. I'm practically vibrating. And when she finally faces me and lifts her chin, her eyes are darkest black.
Not the darkest black. And scene. The end. That's the end of book 2. What is there to say? Really, like, what is there to say of this? I don't feel like this book was at all what I anticipated. From the synopsis compared to what we read, from the title being The Dark One, I thought that meant that this whole book would be about Vane, which I guess it was about getting to Vane's for Winnie, but I thought we were going to get some insight. Like, all we did was the crocodile didn't even show up. They didn't explain his land. We didn't go to his land. We didn't get a lot of his backstory. But then you could argue that it's called The Dark One because now Winnie is apparently a dark one of her own, which is concerning. Cherry cold as ice, man. What? I don't like Winnie either, but wow, that was something, wasn't it? Just a whole bunch of introducing new characters without thoroughly flushing out the ones we already have. And I still have no idea how any of the darling women exist at all since Wendy never went back home. I don't understand how that's possible. I don't understand how her belongings got home, but she didn't. I don't understand how Winnie wasn't more upset that Pan just freaking left her there. I don't understand any of this. I have no expectations when it comes to the rest of this series. I have no idea what to expect or believe. There was a tree sex scene in this book. Never would have guessed. Never would have guessed. I don't really know what to say. I didn't love this, but is it Haunting Adeline bad? Is it The Wild bad? No, it's not. It's just dumb. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. The end. Book 2. Congratulations. We all made it through. I don't think that this sucked as bad as the first one, but it's still just right. It also didn't improve any. So we've neck and neck here. These are both 2-star reads so far. They're creative in thought, in theory, but in execution, not great. And I get it. Fine. We're just here for no thoughts, head empty, smutty vibes. Fine. That's fine. And if you were looking for that, maybe you'll like this. I didn't, because I feel like there was so much promise in the premise of the whole thing. I said this in my review of Vera Valentine's Unhinged. It said what it was on the cover, and it delivered on that. It knew what it was about, and then it beat about it. What am I saying? Now this, I'm disappointed that this is what we have. I hope you had fun with this. I had a moderately good time. I also vlogged my experience in real time when I was reading this for paid members of the channel and people on Patreon and Coffee. If you're interested in that, those links are below. Every link that you could ever want is down below. I really appreciate you watching this and being here and supporting me on this journey. I will be back again for another installment of Nikki St. Crowe's Neverland, with the 3rd book also commissioned by Lee. And as you know, I'm also working on book 2 in the Cat and Mouse duet by H.C. Carlton, Hunting Adeline. So I've got a lot of fun stuff planned for us this year, and I hope you'll stick around and see it. I so appreciate you being patient with me. It's a lot to read these books multiple times, make notes, write the script, film, edit, all of that. And my computer is like 10 years old. So we're pushing this boulder up a hill, but I appreciate you having my back while I do it. And I love you. You don't have to say it back. I will see you in the next video. I just feel like they need their own moment, because I may never have nails like this again. This is not my vibe. I'm having a hard time doing anything. My son had to help me button this shirt. Okay. It's just not, it's been rough, but look how pretty. Oh, they're so pretty. I love them so much. And I feel like they really helped me get my rage across to you today. So thank you guys. Thank you to all my patrons and my Ko-fi people. I love you guys. You guys are so good to me. I appreciate your support in this way. I'll never stop being thankful for you, and I will see you in a bit.